What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity. We are interviewing projects all across Web3. Today, we're going to be tackling Interlock, dealing in Web3-based security from the Aleph Zero and other ecosystems. Let's get into it. What's going on, Andrew? Super excited to have you back. I know we've talked to you guys a couple of times, but always like to start these out with a little bit of an introduction. Can you tell us about yourself, what brought you into Web3, and what you're doing with Interlock?
Yeah, so I'm Andrew Chacha, co-founder, CMO at Interlock. And at Interlock, we're revolutionizing security of the Web3. That's the high-level marketing tagline, but we'll get into it in a little bit. My background has been technology marketing my entire career. I was the first marketing hire at 5 Silicon Valley-based companies, mostly in the enterprise space. I founded my own marketing agency in 2018, and the predecessor to Interlock was my very first client. And then my co-founder, Rick, called me in 2021 to co-found Interlock. Originally, I told him no because I liked my consulting, and then eventually, a few months later, he convinced me to join. But good to be here. And like I said, most of my experience has been B2B enterprise marketing, helping startups with their marketing, strategic messaging, positioning, and a focus on what most companies care about: clicks, downloads, building pipeline.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, I know we're going to dive a little bit deeper into all things Interlock, but can you kind of give us an overview? Because I think you guys inject yourselves a little bit uniquely as far as how you're using Web3 and how your users are using things like ThreatSlayer. Maybe just an overview from the security standpoint, kind of the gap that you guys are filling.
Yeah, so what we're doing at Interlock is we're incentivizing people to participate and to use security products. And what we mean by that is we have a security browser extension called ThreatSlayer, which proactively protects you from browser-based threats. And the browser is a predominant threat vector for a lot of financial harm and information stealing. So we give free protection to users, and in like a Brave style-like model, we incentivize users to share security data, which we package up and sell as an enterprise security product called threat intelligence. In our case, crowdsourced threat intelligence. And farther down the roadmap, users will be able to correct our threat detection and stake tokens on pages that we misidentify. So we're combining our AI threat detection with the power of the crowd and Web3 community plus incentives. That's the shortest pitch.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that I've personally been using, the ThreatSlayer browser extension for, it's been a while. It's probably 6 to 8 to 9 months, something like that. And it works really well, just kind of in the background as I'm doing my normal daily things. And then I go on there and it's like, we flagged thousands of things from what you were browsing. That's like, well, that's nice to kind of have in the background. You talk about users. Can you maybe give us an idea of how many users are currently using something like ThreatSlayer?
Yeah, we have about 30,000 weekly active users, all-time downloads around 50,000. And again, that's on our beta. So right now, rewards are not live, nor is security staking. But we're releasing ThreatSlayer to our early testers next week. And then we'll have like a general release, hopefully in the next 30 days of the new product.
And networks, I know, because I know you guys are going to be dealing in multiple different ecosystems, but I know that, you guys are kind of launching within the Aleph Zero ecosystem as well. Can you talk about kind of that journey for you guys? Why Aleph Zero? What other ecosystems do you kind of plan to reach out into the future?
Yeah, Aleph Zero, originally we're building on Solana, then we moved to Aleph Zero. We like the technology features of Aleph Zero, specifically what they're doing around privacy, speed, and the cheap cost of transactions. And we're also going to be launching on Arbitrum initially as well, which is giving our users more choice, exposure to a larger network, and to give our users more options. Because ultimately, as long as a blockchain is secure, it has the tech requirements for us, I view it like a Web2 app would view cloud services like a Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. We look at it largely commoditized. And for us, the more chains gives us more exposure, gives us more users. The more users we have on the network, the more security data is being shared, the better the product gets, the more valuable the data gets. So like for us, more is more.
That's awesome. And I know you mentioned your background. I'm curious, can you just maybe briefly dive a little bit deeper into some of the team's background?
Yeah, my co-founder Rick, he is our internal security expert, and he's a former ethical hacker. So his claim to fame was he hacked MySpace back in like the early mid 2000s. Then he spoke at DEF CON, and then he parlayed that into a security career of building security products. And I mentioned earlier the predecessor to Interlock was my very first client, at which he sold a product called Enterprise Browser Defense, which is like the enterprise version of ThreatSlayer. We totally refactored it and rebuilt it, but the concepts came from there. We knew there was a market and demand for the enterprise product. And at that company, Rick had clients, including some of the top centralized exchanges, some of the top 5 for their internal security. And they mentioned that, hey, while the protection's really cool, your data is actually even more valuable. And then Rick, with the idea to put on blockchain and incentivize users in a crowdsourced manner.
That's awesome. And I think when you look across blockchain and DLT and communities, and we hear horror stories all the time about people losing crypto. They clicked on something that they shouldn't have clicked on. They've been phished. They've been kind of spammed or scammed. Is that, maybe touch base a little bit on some of the product suites like ThreatSlayer and, other things that you guys are probably working on, using Web3 and using the technology to incentivize users, number one, but also for security. What are some of the things that you're excited about that a product like ThreatSlayer and what you guys are doing at Interlock is going to provide, not, for the entire industry, I guess retail and kind of, you can kind of look at it from retail and enterprise.
Yeah, I think first and foremost is actually getting people to care and participate in security, because typically security products are thought of as an afterthought, and most people only get products after a breach has occurred or after they've gotten something stolen. So getting them proactively involved in security is what I'm most excited about. And that's also one of the challenges of marketing a security product. It's kind of like, you're a marketer, the old adage of selling vitamins versus painkillers. Painkillers are a much bigger market because people don't do the preventative measures to not warrant those. So first and foremost, getting people excited and into security, and excited to use products and add extra layers of security. Well, obviously, ThreatSlayer, we aim to provide a robust product that protects people, but ultimately, it's a layered security approach is the best approach for most people. And the ramifications of security in Web3 are even more impactful, more dire than Web2, because it's a double-edged sword of self-custody, right? It's like you can't call a bank, you can't call your credit card company with the finality of transactions. If you sign a malicious smart contract, or even some users giving away their seed phrases or private keys, you can't get those back, and it's gone forever.
Yeah, 100%. Do you hear an echo from me?
I don't.
Okay, I'm good now. That was weird. I'll try to cut that. But yeah, and I'm curious from like the retail standpoint, because I'm sure, like you mentioned, it's difficult to get retail participants to care about their own security. It's probably the total. I mean, I'm assuming that's maybe a little bit of the different end of the spectrum when it comes to enterprise, because probably one of the first things that enterprises consider is security. I know that when we get into like blockchain adoption, it's a lot about compliance and things like that. But what's the enterprise strategy that you guys have through Interlock? Is it how does that differ from kind of the retail strategy?
Yeah, so those are two completely different strategies. First and foremost on the messaging and branding side. So our enterprise brand that will come out, it's more enterprisey, a little more boring, because you can tell my brand from a consumer perspective, it's irreverent, it's very Web3. Most of our audience is under 45, predominantly male in DeFi into crypto. They're used to having frogs as PFPs and, an irreverent mentality. So first and foremost, it's the messaging and positioning. Secondly, the companies that we're targeting are already buying similar products. They have established budgets, and we're not creating a need. We're having a product that has a unique selling proposition that we aim to sell in both the forms of the crowdsourced threat intelligence, which is the data produced by the users. And then secondly, with enterprise browser extension, the enterprise version of ThreatSlayer. Of those, we know there's existing demand. I hate giving out these massive numbers because it sounds trite, but the enterprise threat intelligence market's around a $10 billion a year market annually. So these are robust, large markets. And the interesting thing about the data we're creating, not only large enterprises will use it, but also we believe other security companies, because many security tools are buying threat feeds like the ones that we're creating.
Okay, yeah, and I know that you guys have you'd mentioned. I think there's a couple of things in the pipeline for you guys as well. A new version of Threat Slayer, upcoming launch plans. Can you maybe what are some of the differences from what is there right now with Threat Slayer versus what's going to be there with the new version?
Mhm.
And then maybe walk us through some of the launch plans that you guys have in the near future. You mentioned it's hard to get people to care about security, and I know that you guys have kind of unique
Yeah.
incentivization tied to it.
Yeah, one of the kind of the challenges here too. It's while we have rewards, it's just reminding people that we're creating products with utility outside of the incentives as well. Like, hey, it's free security products, and there's inherent value in the security. Now, in terms of the new threat layer, that'll be the first version of the reward system will be live, a whole revamped UI and a refactored threat feed with some new features, and then second half of this year, we aim to get security staking live, and that's our true unique selling proposition of in the true crowdsource mechanism for the product. So when we misidentify something, users can stake tokens on pages. Once it goes through a review system, like a PayPal style fraud system, there is some human element involved. It's just not technology. Once it's gone through a review system and the user was deemed correct, they get rewarded tokens for adding to the ecosystem. And conversely, if they're wrong and they're trying to spam the system, those tokens go back to the rewards pool.
Yeah, and I know that it's like pretty interesting because I've had the chance to interview you guys on Spaces a couple of times, but the AI aspect and can you maybe touch base just a little bit on that? I know some of that stuff is kind of under the hood, proprietary stuff, but I mean, how does AI play a role into some of the Interlock product aspects?
Yeah, so we built a supervised learning model, and the goal of that is to have a system that's identifying new pages in real time as opposed to static lists, especially like in Web3 and crypto, where attacks can be quick and pages aren't up for a long time, is being able to identify those in real time and give our users an edge, and then bolstering it with the crowdsource element.
Yeah, and I'm curious just from my stance. I mean, I always like to shotgun questions just based on the convo, but it's talk about maybe, I guess, the data aspects as more people use something like Threat Slayer and as more things get identified. I would assume something like Threat Slayer becomes stronger and branches out, and like it's almost like a flywheel effect or like feedback. Okay, can you maybe just touch base a little bit on that?
The more data we're filtering, the better the more pages our threat detection is seeing, the smarter the product will get, the better the data will get, and the more accurate we'll get. And then it becomes particularly even more effective once we have the crowdsourcing element, because like with all the AI tools and even security products, there's no perfect product, but we aim to bridge that gap with user participation.
That's cool. And I know that shout out to Super Aleph Zero for those of you guys that don't know. I know that he's
now Chris. He's now semi-doxed as Chris.
Well, Chris, yeah, shout out to Chris because I know he reached out. He's like, you do an interview with Interlock, and I'm like, yeah, 100%. But talk a little bit about the ambassador program. It looks like there's a couple of different things for community engagement that you guys have going live. What's the opportunity there for people that are interested? Maybe walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so Super Aleph Zero, Chris, formerly known as Super Aleph Zero. So I hired him to help us build out our ambassador program because he's done an exceptional job building his own brand and becoming a brand ambassador for other brands. And I thought, hey, we have a really nice relationship. You do a really good job building content and engaging communities. Why don't you come with us, make some money, and build a role that you can like? So our ambassador program, we aim to give our program structure with clear directions and clear incentives and clear rewards. Because I think too much in Web3, people do too much stuff for free for companies. And I want to give people that participate and add value. I want to give them commensurate compensation for their activities and rewards. And we truly have a global community. We're predominantly US based team, but most of our community and users are outside the US. It's about 85% outside the US. So we'll be looking for folks in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a really big market for us. North Africa, Central Europe, with a lot of language skills, because localization is really important for the overall program. And the program has 4 different tiers, and is a combination of both efficacy along with activity, because we want people that are producing the right things and that are being effective. And we want to incentivize both, because you kind of need, what it's like in the media, especially on Twitter, social media platforms, is all about producing content consistently, but it needs to be good too. So it's a combination. And we're going to be accepting, I think, up to maybe around 100 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge number. Yeah, I know that this space is a very "what have you done for me lately" space.
100%. You could have, and I think it couldn't be more evident than like with the current market situation. It's like Bitcoin goes 70,000 plus and then goes to the low 60s and the sky is falling. Meanwhile, most people would have given a limb last year to be at the 60,000 level.
Yeah, 100. I mean, you can do 99 things right, and then the one thing that whatever, that's what's going to be kind of highlighted on. I do want to kind of touch base on not financial advice aspects here, but the incentivization model and the token economy aspects you guys have, the IDO coming up, and kind of what that represents within your ecosystem, and how, I guess, really how it. I'm always interested because I think we see so many things going live that are just like, we're launching this because it's it doesn't necessarily tie into the product, but like, how does the incentivization like tie into the actual product for you guys, and what do you guys have coming up down the pipeline with?
The incentivization gets people downloading the product. That's part of our unique selling proposition against traditional Web2 products. Secondly, getting them to share data and participate, and what that represents in terms of launch. So we're releasing our new threats layer to our early testers and our hardcore community next week. Provided a good test, it should be available for general release in the next 30 days. And then after that, we'll move into IDO and token launch and listing. Because we get a lot of pressure for launching, but we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, the product's built, and that we have enough traction to support a successful launch.
Andrew, I want to ask if we missed anything, and if not, if you have any kind of forward-looking statements. Obviously, you've got a lot in the pipeline, but what are you kind of excited about in the near term, and then even looking for, further out for the Interlock ecosystem?
Yeah, I'm excited to really build out the enterprise side of our business and to build a business that drives real revenue and a real business model. Not that it's a fake business model, but something that we can actually generate revenue and really leverage our expertise. Me and my co-founder, Rick, have extensive experience marketing, selling, building enterprise products. We've already started building the foundation for that, including building out our initial strategic messaging and positioning. We hired one of our advisors, Ethan Johnson, who was the head of digital asset security at Citadel Securities, and also in a security role at Galaxy Digital. And he's helping us both with our internal security and then also with our initial messaging, positioning, and finding the right product market fit for the enterprise product. So that's going on in the background. And those will be things I look to launch after the token launch. And then also the enterprise side will also have its own dedicated team, because as I mentioned earlier, it's a different sales cycle, different messaging, different product, different pitch. It's a different everything. So building that is what I'm really excited about, because we know there's an existing market. We know we have a differentiated product. And if we can be a Web3 based company that's selling products that enterprises use, I think that's a huge win for the entire Web3 ecosystem, and will be a feather in our cap.
That's awesome. And can you give us a heads up? Where can people go to learn a little bit more about what you guys are building? Where can they potentially look to leverage something like ThreatSlayer for spam prevention and things like that?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to go to our website's interlock.network, and our Twitter is interlockweb3. But on our website, it has every link that you can imagine. And come join our community, our Telegram, our Discord. We tend to be pretty active. If you have any questions, you can come talk with us, connect with our community.
Well, we really appreciate your time today, Andrew, and shout out to Rick and shout out to Chris, Super Aleph Zero. Really excited to see everything that you guys have coming out in the near future. Excited to see that you guys are building out on Aleph Zero, as well as Arbitrum and the other ecosystems as you guys expand out. Really appreciate your time today, and we will see you next time. And hopefully this isn't the last time we do one of these interviews.
Yeah, I'll see you soon, Salman. Thanks so much.